I'm Kevin Elson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. The Vatican announced this week that Pope Francis will celebrate a special Mass with the poor and people who assist them on November 19th, which is the first World Day of the Poor. The Pope established the day after the Year of Mercy to encourage new initiatives fostering encounter, friendship, solidarity, and concrete assistance to the poor. The Pope is scheduled to offer a luncheon to 500 people attending the Mass, and the Vatican said it hoped parishes would do something similar. In news from around the country, in a follow-up to a story we told you about in an earlier newscast, a 17-year-old illegal immigrant who was looking to have an abortion and living at a federal detention center in Brownsville, Texas, did end up getting the abortion. The American Civil Liberties Union had supported the abortion for the girl, who is identified only as Jane Doe. The Trump administration challenged the ACLU, and the case ended up in the courts, ultimately making its way to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The full court ruled on October 24th that the teen should be able to have an abortion, and the next day she had the procedure. In a statement, Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the pro-life Susan B. Anthony list, said they were deeply saddened to learn of the abortion and asked for prayers for the 17-year-old and her child. She added that they continue to oppose all efforts to impose a so-called constitutional right to abortion and turn the United States into a sanctuary nation for abortion. More news from the Vatican. Pope Francis conversed with 6 astronauts as they orbited 250 miles above Earth on the International Space Station. The Pope asked the astronauts several questions during the 20-minute conversation. Rum Reports has more.
Sitting alone at a table, the Pope seemed like a student curious to learn. He asked them questions about humanity, the future of the planet, and their personal experiences.
Che cosa vi ha motivato a diventare astronauti?
My story started with my grandfather, who was main chief engineer and participated in first man-built satellite, Sputnik. And for me, it's a great honor to continue what he was doing.
There are no borders. There is no conflict. It's just peaceful. And you see the thinness of the atmosphere. It makes you realize how fragile our existence here is. And that as we work here on the space station and within our international partnership, we hope that that example of what we can achieve together is an example for the world and all of humanity.
In quella risposta mi è piaciuto tanto quello che voi due avete detto, no? Lei, il primo, è andato alle proprie radici per spiegare questo. Andato dal nonno, e lei, che viene dall'America, è riuscito a capire che la terra è troppo fragile, ma mai dimenticare le radici. Questo a me fa bene sentirlo.
In news from around the world, now 3 years ago, ISIS overtook the Dominican Sisters of St. Catherine of Siena in Qaraqosh, Iraq, when the terrorist group demolished their convent on August 6, 2014. 24 sisters died as a result of the destruction. Now 6 of the original 36 Dominicans are returning to their land after the liberation of the town. Sister Sylvia said the sisters are determined to keep Christianity alive in these regions because, she says, it's part of their roots.
Our history of Christianity is there. When our ancestors left, they went to live there. We have more than 2,000 years of history. We left, but the Lord helped us return after 3 years. Our job there is to not only help the children, but also the people who are coming from the Nineveh Plains or Mosul, to help everyone have hope that God has not abandoned them and will never abandon us. This Dominican nun assures that the Nineveh Plains have always been a majority Christian. This is why the sisters hold it so dear to them to return, to help keep Christianity alive and accompany the 300 families who are returning and rebuilding a life in Qaraqosh. She says Muslims also suffer from the effects of ISIS in the area and offer help to the Christians, especially the sisters. When our sisters went to see our convents, these Muslim guys were so good to our sisters. To enter these countries, everyone must stand in line and show their documents to know who you are and why you're going. When they see us sisters, they allow us to enter right away. They say we're pure like the Blessed Mother. They tell us this. They love Mary so much. All Muslims love Mary. Now this community will be working together to rebuild their lives, trying to gain some bit of normalcy back. The sisters, with the help of organizations like Aid to the Church in Need, are soon hoping to have a house. All sisters could then return, and once again, they could teach the children in their home city while carefully protecting their deep Christian roots.
More news now from around the country. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, who was the keynote speaker at the Solidarity Dinner for the Washington-based group In Defense of Christians, told those gathered that since the United Nations has failed to help Christians and other minority religious communities, from now on aid from the U.S. would be routed through the U.S. Agency for International Development and faith-based and private organizations to help those who are persecuted in the region. The Vice President also announced that he will be making a trip to the Middle East in December, but did not release details. In Defense of Christians is a nonprofit which advocates mostly for Christians in the Middle East, but also calls attention to the plight of other minority groups in the region. And finally in the news, the governing office of Vatican City has announced that this year's Christmas tree and nativity scene will feature traditional designs and decorations centered on the theme of mercy. The tree will be a 92-foot spruce donated by the Archdiocese of Elk, Poland. The nativity scene will be donated by the Benedictine Abbey of Monte Vergine, located in southern Italy, and will be inspired by the works of mercy. The Christmas tree will be adorned with ornaments made by children receiving treatment at several Italian hospitals. The Vatican will be holding a tree lighting ceremony on the evening of December 7th. The tree will remain in St. Peter's Square until the Feast of the Lord's Baptism on January 7th, 2018. Well, that's all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.